Welcome to Health Oddity, the show that strips away the jargon and hype surrounding all things health and fitness to help you live a long, strong and energetic life. Lining up at the bar this week, here's Peter Lant, Paul Bassett and James St. Pierre.
Hello and welcome to the Health Oddity podcast, episode 127. We are in February 2023 and we are joined by a very special guest today who I'll introduce you to in a minute, but I think it's going to be an interesting episode because this is something we've not actually had anything like this on the podcast before in the previous 126 episodes, so it's going to be a good conversation today. But before we do that, I will introduce you to our regular co-host, and we may be joined by our semi-regular third host in a bit. We'll see. But at the moment, Pete is here. How are you doing, Pete? You're right.
I'm all right. Yeah. Just been out with the boy again. The meadows round near me flooded last week. So there's been very limited places where we can go walking, because everywhere's really muddy and it's very hilly around here. So walking up's okay, but walking back down's a nightmare. And we went down there on Monday, and that was that picture I posted, and you said, "Oh, did you not go in with him?" And I was like, "That's stagnant river water. It's muddy. It's bubbling away. It was horrible, but it's receded now, but it's all frozen." So he was wandering through it and breaking the ice, and he's like, "Whoa, hang on." And when you're walking along normally, and then you get on the ice and you start smaller steps, and you're like, like this. He was running like that across the ice. He was like, it was, and then he'd skid. It was great. It was so funny to watch.
Excellent. No, yeah, we have had in a cold snap, haven't we? Certainly at the moment. So no, it's good. Right. Well, we are joined today by Steve Bush. Now, Steve is a member of Unique Results with Me. He's someone I know sort of personally. And the reason I've got him on is because like we've had several episodes before. The one that jumps out is Ainsley, who we had on, who was not someone involved in the health and fitness industry at all. Just kind of like a regular person who become diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and then kind of how he dealt with that and what he did to sort of change his life. And we had lots and lots of positive comments and feedback, and loads of people kind of talked to me about those kind of episodes where we talk to someone and they basically just share their experience and what they've done. And they're not necessarily here. They're not a coach. They're not in the fitness industry. But they're just, everyday people sharing their experience. And that's what Steve's going to do with us today. So, I'm not going to tell you much more than that. We'll just kind of have a chat with Steve and we will go from there. How you doing, Steve? You all right?
I'm good, thanks, James. Hello, everybody, and thanks for letting me come and talk to you guys.
That's very. I like Steve. He's optimistic. Hello, everybody. That's optimistic. That is.
It could just be the three of us.
I'm basing that. Pete, I'm basing that on the basis the other guys didn't turn up as well, so there'd be at least four of us. Right?
Right, there you go then.
I wouldn't hold your breath for that, but anyway.
Some will listen, hopefully. You never know.
Okay, so Steve, I mean, I've known you for just over 2 years, and just over 3 years ago, you had an operation. To help with your health and things, which was basically like, I mean, you can talk about it in a bit more detail, but it's kind of like it was a gastric surgery, which you can tell us about to help you to lose weight, I suppose, predominantly, and for your health and to help you live longer and all the rest of it. But you are a very, if people are watching on YouTube now or seeing on Facebook or whatever, hello. But you look very, very different, obviously, now. And what will be fantastic is if I can get a picture of previous you to kind of put next to current you, because it really is. I mean, you don't.
I hope you're not expecting me to edit that in, by the way. Come on, you're making this hard for me now.
No, we'll use it on the on the Instagram or on the kind of cover image, But yeah, you even myself, who knows you, I wouldn't think you were the same person. But do you want to kind of tell us a little bit about I suppose your life, like previous, what led you up to that point, how you used to live, what kind of state you're in, condition you're in, health-wise and everything else, and how you used to live initially, and then kind of what caused you to make that decision, or what led to that decision.
Okay, no problem. So how was my lifestyle? I was obviously pretty unhealthy. So basically, just a little bit of background. I'm now 56. So at the time, I was called my early 50s, and the overall situation was that I'd been overweight pretty much all of my life. I was a overweight child, and I lost weight when I was in my early 30s, and I was normal size, got down to about 12 stone, which was about the right weight for me at the time. And I managed to keep that off for about a year, and then I put all the weight back on. And then as each year went by, I was getting bigger and bigger. To put it into perspective, I'll send you the picture, but Pete wouldn't have seen this, but I'll try. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a picture that I'm just saying that's me sitting in an office, to give you an idea. So I was, for the listeners, I was 30 stone 6 pounds on the day I had, well, actually when I started this journey.
That looks like a picture of somebody else. Definitely.
Yeah, I was, and even my son refers to old dad and new dad.
Yeah.
So
in a good way.
I'm just taking it as a win. So, I'd got bigger and bigger and bigger. So I'd lost the weight, and then I got bigger and bigger. And I'd lost the weight by doing it was called the Cambridge diet at the time. So it's where you have a lot of liquid supplements and whatever. It's a diet, and I'd been on various diets, and I'd lost a few stone and put it back on over time. But on that one, I got down to what should have been my proper weight. But I'm a great believer in diets just don't work. I don't really know anyone who, they're a short-term fix, and you lose weight, but you sort of end up getting into the bad habits. It's, it sounds corny, but you need that lifestyle change. Now, although I was 30 stone, I'd been relatively lucky. Well, I've been very lucky. I hadn't had any heart problems. I hadn't had a stroke or any real illnesses. And indeed, when I used to go to the doctors, and have, on the odd occasion I used to go, they'd always take my blood pressure a couple of times, and they'd be almost shocked that my blood pressure wasn't actually through the roof. It was high, but I wasn't on any medication for it, because it was all right. And my heart rate was high, but it wasn't ridiculously high, as you'd probably expect a 30-year-old, someone with 30 stone to be. And basically, I've subsequently found out, hereditary, our family have got very low heart rate, and that's probably saved me from having a lot of medical problems earlier on in my life. But what had happened was, doing even the most straightforward things was damn hard work. So to put that into perspective, I used to occasionally have to go into London. I'd have to get one of the first trains out of Chelmsford so I could get a seat, because I couldn't stand for half an hour because my knees hurt, my back hurt. I used to get to the office, and we used to be in a building called Ballgate Tower, which is immediately behind Liverpool Street Station. For those people that don't know it, it's a 5-minute walk. It used to kill me. I used to stop 2 or 3 times walking there because it hurt so much, and I'd be sweating such a lot because it was such a physical exertion to carry 30 stone. It's 18 stone roughly, or about just under 18 stone more on the way now. If I'm in the gym and they ask me to carry an 18 stone or something, I'm going to struggle, right? So it was difficult. So it was just difficult being me. And what I was finding was, people that can see on the video, this is Arsenal stuff. I'm a bit like James with his man cave. This is my bedroom cave of all Arsenal stuff, because I'm an Arsenal season ticket holder, and I'm very lucky, and I go with my son, and I love it. We have wonderful memories. I was finding it really hard to go to the football. Walking to the ground from the station, it's a mile. I used to stop so many times. Going through the turnstile, I used to have to put my arms up in the air, because the turnstile, otherwise I couldn't get through with my arms next to me. The seats, I felt very conscious. I was like squashing myself up. Everything was very uncomfortable. And I was in so much pain with my knees and my back that I used to take ibuprofen. And we were chatting about this just before we started the recording, but the ibuprofen I used to take 2 400 milligrams of ibuprofen before I left home, when I got to the ground or the pub we used to drink a lot, I took another 800. And then after the game, I took another 800.
What's the recommended dose for that? Not that it matters, like, because it's in the past, but like, just to put that in perspective.
It was, I remember when I spoke to the consultant about it, I was well over the limit, and they were like, "Oh my God, how long have you been?"
I don't doubt you were, yeah.
No, every time I went to football, every time I went anywhere for about 3 years. And so it was just like, oh my God, what am I doing to myself? And so
I'm just looking it
up. I started thinking about it, and I just thought I need to change. And because being me was becoming really, really difficult. I couldn't do the things I wanted to do. And for the first time in my life, I hadn't got ill, but I was in pain and I was going to get ill, and I could see sort of the future, and thinking, oh, Steve, you're going to be in a world of trouble here. You need to do something. And so I decided I needed to change. And the ironic thing is, and it's a bit embarrassing really, I work in financial services, and if you look to my LinkedIn, I put myself down as an operational excellence leader and practitioner. And what that is improving and doing continuous improvement and introducing change and making things better and simpler for people. And I'm really, really good at changing. People tell me, you're really good at getting people to change how they do things. And I had this moment, thought, if I can get people at work to change, hundreds of people to adopt a new way of doing things, I wonder if I use the same model about what I do at work to my own lifestyle and see if that would make a difference. And guess what? It does. It just took me nearly a couple of decades to have this light bulb moment of, if I use those principles to myself, and if you want, James, I can talk about that in a bit more detail, because I think that's one of the things that really makes you want to change and sustain the change, which is all the words I use at work. I did that, and therefore I started, right, I need to change. And that's when the first moment of my life was, right, I need to change. And the reason I needed to change, and you need that reason, is I couldn't be the person I wanted to be. It was stopping me from doing the things that I love. And ultimately, deep down, I knew I'd probably end up dying a lot earlier than I really want to if I didn't actually change. But the key thing was, going to football was hard. Going out for dinner, sitting in a booth at a restaurant would terrify me. I want to have a chair, no arms, so I can, get my fat arse on the chair, to be blunt.
Yeah.
There's a few things you said there, and one of them in particular, I mean, there's loads of stuff in there. The thing about using the same principles that you do very well in your job to apply to you is what Dave Whitley was talking about a couple of weeks ago, wasn't he? And he was saying, like, applying the principle, he did it the opposite way around, and applying the principles of his strength training and everything to his lifestyle, and changing that. But what you've said there, and what I hear a lot of, is I haven't got time because I'm busy at work and all of this. But you've actually given yourself time back, because everything used to take longer. You've probably freed up hours in your day, so because you don't have to get the first train out of Cheltenham, because you can stand up now and stuff like that. So you've actually freed up some time in your life to be able to do exercise anyway. So it's a double win.
It is. I don't. It's like anything, right? We all use it. We all want to change, but ultimately, it's dead easy to find an excuse.
Yeah.
And I've got more time in my life finding an excuse and a reason for not doing it than actually finding a reason to do something. So it's almost like I try now, I like, same with work, same in personal life. I may have a success despite something didn't quite go right. It makes it even feel any better. And funny enough, I trained this morning and I woke up and I was like, I had a really bad night's sleep because I had a bit of an upset stomach, which was my own fault because I ate some bad food, and that sometimes happens. And I was feeling lethargic and whatever. I had one of the best training sessions I've had for months and months and months. It was brilliant. Nikki, my personal trainer, who has been immense all the way through this last couple of years, she just gets me to do things, and I'll come out and I'm feeling great. But Steve, I never even had that emotion before, that feeling, because I didn't know what it was like to train.
I was just going to ask Steve, obviously, before we kind of move on to what you decided and what actually you had done, and then your life subsequently, and like you say, maybe go into a bit more detail about how you implemented these systems of, of change and sustainability and that sort of thing. You kind of said that, you'd always been big and you kind of got yourself, got up to sort of 30 plus stone, which for American, we got quite a lot of people listening in America, I know.
114 kilos. You were over.
Yeah, they don't know kilos.
Okay, 252 pounds.
420 pounds.
So basically 252 pounds more than what you are now. So that would be like saying to somebody, go and pick up that 114 kilo, 250 pound weight for me, please, and then carry it around with you everywhere you go.
It's took me 2 years to deadlift what I lost, right? It really used to annoy me that I couldn't even what I'd lost. There was nowhere near it. It's like, how's that work?
Sorry, yeah, 420 pounds, yeah. And sorry, I realise I just said they don't know kilos, as if I know some Americans, they don't know kilos. 420 pounds. I know some Americans know kilos, but it's not their system they use. But 420 pounds, most people will know. So, I mean, when you, so what was your lifestyle like? I mean, to get to 30 plus stone, and this is something that I think is really interesting, because when I was younger, or, even when I had less life experience, and the reason I really wanted to get you on, because we do have a number of trainers and gym owners and people like that who listen. And I think there's been, and I will probably hold my hand up that, years and years gone by. I mean, a long time ago, I would have kind of thought, well, like this, kind of weight loss surgery or whatever. It's trying to take the easy way out. All you've got to do is be more disciplined and what Pete says sometimes, which is eat less and move more, and you can do it. And if you can't do it with discipline, then somehow it's weight loss surgery is cheating or something like this. And I know young trainers and, and as I say, because I'm talking from my own point of view, might have had this view, but now that I'm older, I have more life experience. I certainly have more empathy. I realize, that this is such a complex issue, and that's why I wanted to get you on. But what was your lifestyle like that kind of, caused you to get to 30 plus stone?
I loved it, but it was pretty unhealthy. So headlines were, I've got a stressful job. I used to work long hours. I've always been a person that starts at work early in the morning, so I never used to have breakfast, but then I'd eat on the go a lot, either because I'd be commuting, long commutes. I live in Essex and worked up in Edinburgh or Manchester or Leeds, so I'd be on trains or planes or whatever, or cars, and so I'd eat on the go. And if you eat on the go, you tend to eat unhealthily. Number one, I was away a lot. I like a drink. I love beer. I drank a lot. Because I was busy at work, I often didn't have a proper lunch break, and so you eat convenience food. Again, all the wrong sort of food. I'd often work late, and so I'd eat late at night. And I guess the key thing is, and I didn't realize it until I'd started this transformation and change. I've got a very bad relationship with food. I still have. Do you want to call it an eating disorder? It depends on the parameters you put on an eating disorder. I consider an eating disorder if you've got an unhealthy relationship with food and the way you use it, you've got some sort of disorder. And I have. If I'm stressed, if I'm tired, I go for food. There's triggers. Now, I've learned to control a lot of those triggers, but they're still there. It doesn't go away. But I've got things in place, whether it be a smaller stomach or a different lifestyle, that means that I don't sort of expose myself, or I can handle those situations better now. But yeah, I used to eat. So eating for me is, I'd have a tub of Ben and Jerry's ice cream, but I'd eat the whole tub. I knew I shouldn't be eating it, but it gave me comfort. But then when I finished eating it, I felt really, really bad. But then half an hour later, I'll then go and eat a packet of crisps because I felt bad and I needed something. And bizarrely, the food used to give me comfort. And so part of it was I had a bad relationship with food. Part of it was lifestyle, in terms of I was busy, so I just ate bad food. convenience and all of that. And so it just snowballed. So each year I was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But because I didn't have any medical problems, and because I was still able to do what I could do, you know, I used to pride myself on, we'd go out from work. If we went out drinking after work, I'd be the last man standing. I'd still be in the bar at 2 a.m., but I'd be up in the office at 7. I wouldn't be anywhere near my best. I'd be kidding myself that I was functioning, and I was functioning of sort, but I wasn't nowhere near the best version of Steve Bush. But I'd do that, and I'd just keep going. I could get by with a little sleep, and I could still function and be okay. But it was just really bloody hard. And it started, as I say, it started getting to that point. That change part was when it was just like, oh, hold on a minute, I can't do the things I want to do. So part of the process that I went through, which I'll get into the detail on, but somebody asked me how much I actually drank. And I said, and my wife, Trisha, was with me when we were with this dietitian. And she said, do you drink a lot? And I went, oh, yeah. And she goes, well, what situation do you drink the most in? And so I'm looking, and Trish goes, when you go to football? And I, oh, yeah, when I go to football. And she goes, well, how much would you drink? And I went, 6 to 8 pints. And she's like, oh, that is a lot. And I went, yeah, that's before the game.
I was going to say, that doesn't sound like much for the way the way this story is going.
And so she was like, and she looked at me, and she took a wrote down it before the game. And I was like, yeah. I went, I don't drink at half time. And she was like, right. I went, after the game, depending on if we've won or lost. And she goes, does it make a difference? I went, not really. It depends on how I feel. But, you know, she goes, so how many pints could you drink? And I went, oh, I don't know, 15 to 20 over the day, an evening. And I go, it wasn't just me. Other people were doing it as well, as if that was okay. But the only thing was, I was really unhealthy and really, really overweight. Yeah. But the thing is, because I was then drunk, can you imagine the rubbish food I was eating on the way home? Hoovering up burgers and chips and all sorts of stuff.
So, Steve, in terms of, so this deals with the, you know, gives us an insight a little bit into the kind of the inputs, the calories that, you know, the lifestyle, the way you would bring stuff in. But I'd imagine, like you've already touched on, the actual difficulty of moving around and just living, you know, day to day with the weight that you are carrying. I would imagine that you probably looked for any way possible to minimize kind of movement and, you know, making yourself pain and walking and, you know, all this sort of stuff. You know, I'd imagine there wasn't much activity going on in your life back then either, was there?
Well, no, so not in the last year before I had the operation, but up until then, yeah, I wouldn't let anything get in the way because I'm a stubborn so-and-so, as I keep getting told by people, and determined. So I'd struggle through, but I'd struggle through by taking loads of blimmin' ibuprofen or whatever and just popping pills and just painkillers, and I'll be okay. But in that last lead up to when we went to Croatia, went to Dubrovnik in the July, and I pretty much decided then, or I had decided I was going to have the weight loss surgery. That's when I told my wife Trisha, or now wife Trisha. But it was really hot. I couldn't walk around Dubrovnik. It nearly killed me. I walked up if anyone who's ever been there, there's the city that's got a wall around it, and there's stairs you have to come down and go back up. I walked up those stairs. It nearly killed me. I literally was I couldn't breathe by the time I got, and I stopped about 10 times. But I was so determined to go out there, and I just thought, if ever there was proof I needed to do it, this is it now.
It's funny what you've been saying there. Honestly, it really gets to me. I've never been like obese, but I was overweight. But I was doing similar things, like drinking loads, drinking till I passed out and stuff like that. And busy at work and still being up in the morning and work at 7:30 and finishing at 6 in the evening and all that. And like work defined me and all of that. So this really hits home. But the funny thing is, like, number one, I'm a numbers guy. That's 4,000 calories in beer just on a Saturday without food. To put that into perspective, which is like 2 days worth of food basically for your average bloke, isn't it? Anyway. And that's just in beer. But it's what you were saying about getting the comfort, like the cycle of it, getting the comfort from the eating, but then feeling guilty. So then like an hour later, you're eating something else to get that comfort back. And then it gets into that cycle. And then becoming the person who says, I can overcome things because I'm big and I can do stuff. And it's like, that's almost like instead of having an excuse, it's like a goal. It sounds like a goal of like, no, I can do this. So why should I? Why should I do anything about it? Because my blood pressure's okay, my heart's okay, and all of that sort of stuff. It's amazing how you can convince yourself of that, isn't it? I think.
No, it is. Yeah, it was like, you know, you think I can't do it, but I can. And because I'm an extrovert, and I've gone to a room, I wouldn't hide away. I would embrace being big. I didn't realise what it was doing to me inside until I actually started sorting out some issues, because I had issues. And the thing is, most people, you know, I speak to, you know, I was lucky. I had my surgery private, which I can come on to later, but a lot of people don't. And there's some people that I know who have, through a support function that I'm connected with, that have it done on the national health, and you don't get anywhere near the support. And I speak to them, and I've spoken to lots of other people, because I'm lucky people are interested in the, if you like, the story and the journey. Lots of people have a bad relationship with food. It's extremes though. It's like anything, isn't it? Lots of people exercise. Some do a little, some do none, some do lots, some do too much. And it's the same sort of thing with food. You know, there are a number of people I know that do it and they go, oh yeah, it's habit or it's comfort. I was an extreme version of that. But it can be a very bad habit, but it does, bizarrely, you know, a chocolate bar or biscuit of a night, it's a habit, but it does actually go, I enjoyed that. Did you? Why? Because thinking your head, it was good.
Yeah. So then what made you, what was the, you got to the point where you thought, look, I'm in pain, you know, near enough constantly. This is stopping me from living the life that I want to live. It's stopping me being me. I need to change something. What was the, I suppose, the decision to have the kind of surgery that you had? Was that the kind of the thing that you thought, this is, you know, what made you to have that, make that decision first of all, and then when you made that decision, what kind of steps did you make, and what procedure did you have, and you know, the kind of more the details around it?
So going back to what I was saying about the work side of things, you've got to have a reason to change, and you have to explain to people if you're going for a change why. So I had my reason, you know, it was being me and doing stuff, you know, day-to-day living. The other thing you do when you come into, when you do change at work, you go to people, well, we'll introduce this change, we're going to do this, and you see if they've got the skills and capability to do it. I didn't have the capability to get fitter and lose weight because I wasn't moving. I was doing 1,500 steps a day. I'd started drinking more water because, James, you know about sleep, water, and steps. God, all right, you know, times we've spoken about it, and you talk about it. And I thought, well, I can do the water. Sleep, I've always had a challenge on, but I can't do the steps. I couldn't do the steps because it hurt too much, and I was having more pills. I can't take the pills to do the steps. That don't make sense. Even I was stupid, but even I knew that wasn't a good move. So I thought, well, if I haven't got the capability to do it, what do I do? How can I get fit? I need to do something which will enable me to move, because yes, I can reduce my calorie intake, but Christ almighty, I'd have to take it down. It would take, I'm not going to live long enough to lose the amount of weight I'm doing just by reducing my calorie intake. And so I started doing some research, and I just thought I need to have some sort of weight loss surgery. And I knew a lady that had a gastric band years before and lost a lot of weight. Ironically, she'd subsequently put it all back on. The good thing is she's subsequently lost it again now, which is good because she's changed her lifestyle. But she, so I knew you could do it, and I thought, oh, I have a gastric band. And I did the research, and I found out actually you don't have bands now. You can, the most common surgeries in the UK are either a sleeve, where they cut away sort of 2/3 your stomach, so you end up with a sleeve rather than like an L shape, which is what your stomach normally is, or you have a bypass where they completely bypass it. So I thought, right, I'm gonna have one of them. I did some research, and I thought, the sleeve's the one I should probably have because I don't have acid reflux, and that seems to be the right thing. And then I thought, right, I need to find a surgeon. And it just so happened, years before, I'd had an operation at a local private hospital in Chelmsford, and they did surgery. And I sort of researched the guy, consultant, Mr. J. Anthony, who was amazing. And I made an appointment, and I went in to see him and to book in to have gastric surgery. It wasn't quite as straightforward as that, because I went in there with my phone thinking, right, got a couple of weeks coming off, I'll have it then. Job's a good one. And he went, no, don't work like that, Steve. And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, we need to make sure that A, you're physically well enough to have the operation because it's a major operation. But 2, I need to be confident that you are mentally in the place to have the operation, because it's not just about having surgery. And if I and my team don't think you are, then I'm sorry, but I won't do the operation. And I was like, oh, okay. So I can't have it done in 2 weeks. Then on this 2 weeks I've got off, he goes, no, it's about a 6 to 8 week program. And so I went through a load of tests and stuff. I was physically fit enough, other than the fact I found out, which I never knew, I had severe sleep apnea. Which is often the case with an older gentleman who's severely overweight. And so I had to go through and get a CPAP machine to help me sleeping, because when they did the test, on one occasion on the test night they did it, I stopped breathing for 72 seconds, which was a bit scary because I can't actually hold my breath now for 72 seconds, let alone God knows. And the other half have been saying, like, I'd snored a lot, and she said, you're breathing, you stop and you scare me sometimes, and then you start breathing again. I went, it's just normal or whatever. Well, it is normal if you've got severe sleep apnea. So I had to go through all of these tests, but fortunately, physically, I was well enough, and mentally, because of the work thing, I had a reason to change. I knew the reason why I wanted to have the operation. But the other 2 things you need at work is, if you're doing a change, you need to align your formal mechanisms to make sure they support the change. There's no point in doing something without having a way of supporting it. If you change a process at the work, if you, like in the gym, James, recently you've done a change and said, look, we're having problems, so we'll do this, but I may need to change the way we book in and cancellations to support that change. So you're aligning your processes to support what you're trying to do. I thought, well, I do that at work, I need to change my life and the way I prioritize things, going back to what Pete said around, your goal is can you be the last one out, and can you drink a lot or whatever, and despite all of that, I need to change something to support this new lifestyle. And then the final thing you need at work when you do a change is you need support. And so I decided I needed to make sure I had support, and this was a big thing for me because weight loss surgery's got a hell of a stigma. You were saying earlier on, younger people, it's a cheat. It's a bloody major operation. Do you really think people want to go through that to cheat? Unfortunately, people think that it's a quick win, but it's.
I think, and I'm talking about myself here. I'm not like trying to generalize, but I know better now. But you think people just, like you've just said, just go into the NHS and go, I want the operation. They go, all right, we'll have you in next week, do it, and you're done. There you go. See you later. And that's it. I think there's a lot of that about.
I think what I was going to say, Steve, was, and I said that because I was very honest about how and that's why I wanted to speak to you, because I think, people do think it's a quick fix, and the part of the, I mentioned before, I think before we press record, that probably over 25 years of me doing what I do, I've known at least 30 people, when I said this to you numerous times, who've had like some kind of weight loss surgery. And you are the only person that I know out of those 30 plus who has actually, changed their life, lost weight, sustained it, and we'll talk about, maybe the numbers of people who have it. And I think that's probably why there is a bit of a, not a stigma to it, but I think the success rate of it is pretty low. I mean, you probably know more than me, but you obviously know more than me about it because you've got personal experience of it. But so I think some people think, it's an easy way out. It's a quick win. I can do it. I can either do it on the NHS or pay my money and it's going to fix me. And I think you will go into it, but you've spoke about it being a tool, and that's all it is. And for the vast majority of people who I've met who come and see us, maybe, and just in the having a consultation, a conversation when you first meet them, they might say, 1 year ago or 2 years ago or 5 years ago, I had this surgery, and I lost a load of weight and I put it all back on again, so the success rate, this is why it sounds very different. The consultant and the doctor that you had, who kind of said, well, there's more to it than this. We can't just do this. So what's your experience of the success rate of it and things? Because I know you're actually helping people now who are considering the surgery and, you know, talking to them, aren't you?
Yeah, I try to. So the bit around if you have the surgery, you will lose weight. Unless you don't follow what they say, you will lose weight, guaranteed, because you can't blimmin' eat anything for 3 months. You're on liquids and, you know, soft food and puree food and all sorts of things. But you won't sustain it, because at the end of the day, you may have a smaller stomach, but if you decide to fill that stomach up with, I don't know, chocolate and bad stuff, you don't have the loss of the weight. So the important thing for me was, I got lucky. I got a consultant who actually had his head screwed on and just made sure that mentally I was in the right place, but also overlaying that with applied my change sort of framework in terms of understanding why I've got to change the skills, the alignment and the support. People don't like to say they're having it because of the stigma. But you know you don't lose weight, so people will see it. People know you're overweight because you can see it. And I took the view of, if I'm going to have this change, I need bloody help. And I need that support around me. And so that's, you know, so that's why I did the approach. What you tend to find is people do think of it, because we as a, I'm talking very general about the UK now, but we like quick wins. We like easy options. We like the fast route. We don't really go for small incremental improvements and things. You know, you were talking the other day about your ice bath, James, and coming down 1 degree at a time. Don't go down to like 2 degrees straight away, because you're going to be in a world of trouble. When it's took me 2 and a bit years to be able to do a press up, but I'm so damn happy I can now do a press up. But if someone said to me 2.5 years ago, I think, what's the point? But you have to slowly work towards these things. Maybe not as slow as 2.5 years, but but then people just expect a quick win, and it doesn't work like that. Nothing. If it's quick, it's not sustainable. You have to go through that process. In terms of people I know, the averages are, in terms of weight, someone said to me once, or my consultant said to me, it's an average of about 10 stone is the average overweight that people have when they have weight loss surgery. And if you look at some of the stats you see, they're like the average weight loss after 2 years, which is how much post-care support you get, is 60% of your excess weight. So there's still people there who's, several stone overweight. So I wouldn't consider that a great success, to be perfectly honest.
Because you said, I know that this doctor has a different approach, but I think still he's said to you, hasn't he, that you are like the most successful person, or one of the most successful people he's ever done the surgery for. So it's, even though he's trying to, to do what he can, and to, to have more of a holistic view of it, and to, it's still, with all of that, it's still, like you say, the success rate is very, very low, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It was quite. So you met people who have sort of done the timeline. Obviously, November 2019, I had the surgery. Following March, lockdown in the UK, right? Joyous experience. You imagine being locked down when you're trying to get fitter and things and whatever, and you're stuck at home and all you can do is eat. That's as good as a thing, and drink. Brilliant. And so my support that I had, I actually didn't see my surgeon. Saw him just before lockdown, and then I didn't see him for another nearly 9 months. So it's almost a year after my surgery that I went in to see him. And I walked in to see him, and I still had a mask on because you had to wear masks at the time. And he looked up and he went, "Are you Steve Bush?" And I went, "Yes." And he went, "You've lost ever such a lot of weight." And I'm like, "Yeah, you did surgery. That was the whole." And he went, "No, you've lost a lot of weight very quickly." And he sat me down and he started asking me questions. And I just said, "Look, do you want me to just explain to you what I've done?" So I explained my lifestyle and the change I'd gone through and what I was doing and how I recently joined Unique Results and why I had joined and so forth. And he went, "Oh, right." He said, "You've done everything we suggested." And I was like, "Well, yeah, I've sort of learned over life that you go to medical school and you're the expert. And so, if I get pulled into a business to introduce operational excellence, they're doing it because I know what I'm talking about, hopefully, and I can demonstrate that. So I thought I'll just listen to you and sort of do what you've suggested. I may have done some of it a bit faster and more extreme than you said, because I enjoyed it, so I wanted to do more exercise and so forth. But yeah, I've done exactly what you've done. And to the degree of the following year, the checkups I had every 3 months, on one occasion, I went in to be weighed, and bear in mind, I'd been my target weight for a year. My mindset still was, I got in there, I took my jacket off, and I had my car keys in my jean pocket. So I took my car keys out my jean pocket and put it on the side. I took my watch off. I got about as light as I could possibly be because I was still so worried about what my weight was. And the nurse wrote down a piece of paper, put it in. I'm chatting to Joe Anthony, he's chatting away. And at the end of it, he said, "Oh, that's really good. I'm glad you're doing well." I was talking about various things. And I went, "Do you want to have a look at the bit of paper?" And he goes, "What for?" I went, "Because you made me get weighed." He went, "Oh, we do that for everyone." He said, "I don't need to. You're fine, aren't you?" And I went, "Well, no, look at the piece of paper. I want to know, like, how, I think I know how I've done, but how have I done compared with a year ago?" And he looked at it, he went, "Yeah," he said, "you're 0.2 of a pound different than you were a year ago." That's right then. And he went, "But Steve, you're all right. You need to start, and you have to learn to relax about it." Because I was still paranoid, because losing weight is quite easy when you've got a target to aim for, that goal. You know, it's a bit like people saying, I just changed my way of doing it. When you've hit a weight, it's then how do you sustain it and get into the place where you just have balance in your life, so that, you know, because as surgery goes on, you know, I stretched my previous stomach. I stretched my stomach. It was bloody big, yeah. Excuse me. Well, obviously it's smaller, but you can still stretch it. So you have to be aware of stretching it. And people of my age, my mum and dad used to say to me, "You're not leaving the table till you finish your meal." How many times? It's not a good behaviour, is it? How many times have you been in a restaurant and they've come up and said, "Would you like a dessert?" And you've gone, "Oh, I'm full up." Okay, I'll have a little look.
Yeah,
you know, you're sticking in a dessert that's 600 odd calories or more.
Yeah. So when you so this is great. So you had the sleeve done, yeah, and then what is you, and you lost. So you were like we said, 30 stone 6 pounds when you went in for the. So as you are sort of now, you know, what kind of approximately do you weigh now? I know it's going to go up and down a little bit, I know, but you're fairly sustained and stable, aren't you?
Yeah. So I had my surgery on a Thursday. And it just so happens that I have my personal training on a Thursday as well. So Thursday is my day. I will weigh myself religiously every Thursday and most Mondays, because that sort of gives me an indicator, because over the weekend I may have been not so good or whatever, and therefore adjust. So this morning I got on the scales and I was 12 stone 13. So I went down as low as just under 12 and a 3 was for a while, and everyone was saying to me, "God, you look really ill, you look gaunt." I had no energy. My sweet spot, I like to be between about 12, 10 and 13. That's where I feel good. And I range. So sometimes I get on a Monday, I'll get on scales and I'm 13.1 or 13.2, and I'm like that. And I used to be like, "Oh my God, Lord," and then we'll eat the next day. But then I just thought, "Oh, well, I'll just get it sorted out. I'll just be good for the week." And then I drop back down to 12, 13, and then I go back down. So I sort of swing about 6 pounds. I have a range of about 6 pounds.
So yeah, I was going to say, so for our kind of, like I say, American friends and people who are in pounds, you were about 420 pounds. You're now about 180. Yeah, that's kind of approximately where you're at. Yeah. So, and what's life like for? So yeah, because you still go to football, you still go to watch Arsenal, don't you?
Yeah.
What's different on a match day for you? So you used to have 6 to 8 pints before the game, possibly 6 to 8 pints after the game, and be in pain walking to the pub and, you know, dose up with ibuprofen and all the rest of it. What's a match day like for you now, just as an example?
So one of the things I did through lockdown was I got the target of 10,000 steps. That's how I started my fitness journey. So walking's still important to me. It's probably my favorite sort of exercise. So I now walk to the local station, which is say a 20-minute walk away, 25-minute walk. I get on the train, I get up there, and I go up with my son, and we go to the pub. And for 2 years, I didn't have a drink. I used to drink water with a dash of blackcurrant in. And I used to drink that. Now I'll go and I'll have a couple of pints. And then I'll go then I'll walk the mile to the grounds. And most of the guys I'm with can't keep up with me the speed I walk at, rather than the other way around. I go, "Hang on a minute, boys, hang on a minute. Can we just wait here?" and whatever. I will pass the chip shop, which breaks my heart because they're really good chips, but I will pass the chip shop. And interestingly enough, none of the lads have chips anymore either. Sort of spread the gospel of don't have chips, bad for you. So I will pass the chip shop, we'll go on the ground, watch football. I still don't have a pint at half time, never done that. And then on the way home, we'll go and have a drink. I might have one more, might not very often. I probably either won't bother having one on the way home, or I'll just have water.
Has that spoilt your enjoyment of the day?
Now that's a great question. So the old Steve Bush would have said, "Oh my God, I need to have that because you've seen the way Arsenal play. If I don't have a drink, I need to know the pain." And there's still a few times when I wish I could have had 6 or 7 pints, but we're doing all right at the moment, so it's been a bit easier. Not in the slightest. It hasn't. Do you know what? If anything else, I'm probably enjoying it more because I'm not in so much pain and discomfort.
Yeah.
In fact, I'd say probably that's rubbish. I do enjoy it more because I'm not in so much pain and discomfort. But it was quite funny because I'd lost all the weight through COVID. Obviously, you couldn't get into football. And so when we got to the turnstile, I'd gone from the previous time I'd been 30 stone. And then the next time I was probably about 12 and a half. And so I used to have
Did you still go to do this?
I nearly fell over because I went through the turnstile. It almost threw me out the other side because I pushed hard because in my head, oh, you have to push hard, I'm going to get stuck. So I pushed hard against it. And obviously, I'm smaller. So I just literally flew out. Someone's behind me in hysterics going, that was hilarious, Dad. You nearly stacked it completely.
Anyway. And what's sort of life like now for you in terms of just general stuff? Like, I mean, obviously you train now, you never used to train, you exercise regularly, obviously food habits, drinking habits have changed, walking, like you say, running, all this stuff. I mean, I know you've gone on to do some fantastic things since with the cycling and that sort of thing. Maybe you can just sort of spend a couple of minutes just telling us what life's like now for you from that perspective.
So I guess the headline is, I'll talk about exercise in a second, right? But I love it. But the best thing and what life is really like now is it's easy to be me. If I want to go and do something, I can go and do something. I don't have to pre-plan everything. And what I found is that people talk about be the best version of yourself you can be. It used to be really hard for me to be the best version of myself because just getting somewhere, getting up in the morning, getting a shower, walking downstairs, getting somewhere was tiring. So the time I started doing anything, I was already pretty tired anyway. So it was hard to keep up in your game or whatever. Now I get somewhere and I'm full of energy. And so it's easier being me. And so I'm more relaxed. And the big thing that surprised me is physically, obviously, if you lose, the amount of weight I've lost, I'm less more than half the size I was, right? You're going to feel physically better, right? There isn't a person in the world can not lose that amount of weight and not feel physically better. So I expected that. And I didn't actually expect to lose as much weight as I did, by the way. My target was to be at 15 stone, but this is what it settled at. The interesting thing is I am mentally calmer. So I often use the analogy of a pot of water on a stove boiling. And what I used to find is that because it was so hard being me, that water in that pot was always warm. And so if anything happened, it would get boiling very quick because I had like a short fuse and it would just go and then it would be bubbling. Now that pot of water's stone cold all the time. And then if anything bad happens or anything stressful happens or something happens where I may get more tense and that would create the water to boil, it just gets a little bit warm. I don't get as stressed and I don't get as anxious as I used to be because I'm just calmer. I am so much calmer, apart from when I'm watching Arsenal. Well, my son would probably point out if he was here now. But yeah, I'm just calmer. It's easier, and that's the biggest surprise and win. And because of that, I don't have the triggers where I need food so much because I feel all right with myself. So it's sort of like helps you to sustain the change because I feel better about myself and because I'm not as stressed as I was and because I'm not as tired as I was, I don't have those moments where I go, oh, I need some sugar, or I need something, you know, I don't need to refuel that way. And so it makes it easier to sustain the weight I am, because I'm not having those triggers, because it all supports each other. In terms of exercise, I never thought I'd join a gym. When I met you, my other half recommended your gym to me, and I remember my heart rate was racing. My actual watch, because I monitor all my stats. That's the other thing that I find important, because it's dead easy to forget what you're doing or whatever. But my watch saw I was actually exercising, because my heart rate had gone up so much, because I was so tense walking in the gym. Not because of you or your gym, but it was a gym, and I hadn't been in one for decades. But through walk down, I started walking. So immediately after I had the operation, I started walking. They recommend you do that anyway, because of the gas that builds up when you have a weight loss surgery. And I started within a couple of weeks, I was doing 7,000 steps a day. Within 3 weeks, I was doing 10,000 steps a day. And then we went into lockdown, and I was walking. And then, unfortunately, my best friend, a guy called Eamon, he had a stroke. And fortunately, it was a mini stroke, but he had a health scare, and so he needed to get healthier. And so he took up Couch to 5K, because his son had recommended it to him. And so virtually we did Couch to 5K in lockdown. He lived in Ipswich, I lived in Chelmsford. And he took me into it. He said, look, Steve, he said, you've got those steps in your legs, just try doing a bit of running. And then he started off, and I'd get a message in the morning going, I've done session 1 of week 1, and I'd go, oh, damn, I'm going to have to do it. And I don't know if you know much about Couch 5K, but the first session of week 1, you have to run for a minute. That's a damn long time. And I remember having my phone, and my running, by the way, at the time, my arms were the best. They're world class at running, my arms, the way they move up and down. The rest of the works are good, but my arms were great. And seriously, I didn't make the minute. I made about 53 seconds or something like that. And it was hard. But 8 weeks later, and I was still weighed 21 stone, I think, at the time, I ran 5K in 41.5 minutes. It was a bit slow, but I did it, and that Couch 5K worked. And so did my mate Eamon, and he still runs now. And then a year later, we did a half marathon together. So it's yeah. And so I did walking, got into Couch 5K. I don't consider myself a runner. I thought I need to do something else, which is why I got introduced to the gym, did your induction program. Discovered a love of spinning, which I tell everyone about. It's still the best exercise I think out there. Sorry for those who don't like spinning. You either love it or you hate it. And then through the program you have, James, in terms of the ability you can have personal training, I started having personal training with Nikki, who listened to what I was doing. And, you know, guess what? My legs were really strong, because they've been carrying around 30 stone for God knows how long. So that was all right. My upper body was terrible. Spoke to her, and I started working on the things that I wanted to work on: my core strength, my flexibility, doing some stretching. I was a 50-year-old man that didn't do any exercise, and certainly didn't do any stretching. So, and now I do it and hate it, and it's painful, but I'm a little bit more flexible and stuff. And slowly you get those little wins where you can do things. So now I exercise. One thing I've learned is I exercise 5 days a week. I always have the 2 days off. Sometimes I've ignored what you and Nikki have said to me about resting. Don't over exercise, because obviously I know best, even though you've done it all these years and a professional and I'm not. And I always feel better when I've had 2 days off. So my week starts and finishes on the same day. Monday, you've got a phrase, never miss a Monday. And I'll tell that to loads of people that I work with and talk to about fitness. If you say you're going to start doing anything, do it. Because if you don't do it on that day, you won't do it the next day. So I exercise, do my spin class on a Monday, and I then have 2 days rest. And then I do exercise Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Then the end of the week is the Monday, but it's also the start of the week to get me going. And that's the cycle I have. And Pete, you know, you mentioned about work and getting in the way of things.
Yep.
It can easily, if we choose to let it.
Yeah.
That's what I've learned. So I used to turn around and go, oh, I can do that. Now, doing all this while you're going through lockdown is dead easy. I changed job last January, and I've got a job that's now 70 miles away, and I have to be there I chose to be there. I agreed I'd be there 3 days a week. So on a Monday, I said I'd be there on a Monday. Yeah, no problem. Well, I do spin on a Monday morning. Now, the old Steve Bush, the old one, the old dad, would have gone, oh, I'll just bin spin off and I'll just get up early and I'll get to work or whatever. The new one, I spoke to the boss and I said to her, she told her about the journey I've been on and the importance of things and never missing a Monday. I said, you know, what I'd like to do is I'll be here, but I probably won't get into about 9:30. She didn't even blink. She went, of course, you know, it's not even that late. It's fine. You know, you'll do the hours, you do what, you know, you've got to make sure that your lifestyle supports work, and because that gets the best out of you at work and so forth. And so, yeah, yes, I've got a really good leader that I work for, but also, you know, I wouldn't have asked. And if you don't ask, you'd never find that out. So you have to plan it in. You have to have, and you know, the guys at work laugh. They look at my calendar and I've got my spinning on a Monday, and I've got my PT and spinning in on a Thursday, and I've got, I don't know, Arsenal on a Monday night or a Tuesday night or whenever, if it's in the calendar, so I can plan things around it, because that's a rock. What I call a rock in my calendar. It has to happen because I want it to happen. And so I plan things around it. And that's important if you want to change. You know, don't allow things to get in the way, because it's too easy.
I love that, because you're scheduling in to your week the things that are important, and then everything else fits around it. Because if you don't schedule that in, everything else just takes over that time anyway, doesn't it?
So that's the same as work though, Pete, isn't it? It's like people have you ever one of those days you go, oh, I've got nothing done that I wanted to get done today. The day just gets filled up with stuff.
Yep.
And someone said to me, have you ever heard the analogy about the jar, the rock, the sand and the pebbles?
Yep.
If you don't, if it's okay, I'll just do a couple of minutes. So someone told me this, and it was a work thing, and it was like, imagine your day is a jar, and then rocks are the important things you want to get done. The pebbles are stuff you have to do, and the sand is just stuff that happens. If you don't plan anything, you put the sand in the jar, and this jar's half full up or 3/4 full up, and then you try and put the rocks and the pebbles in, and it's overflowing. And then that's why you don't get anything done. But if you plan your day and put the rocks in first, you can then put the pebbles and fit things around it, and then you get the sand and you put it in the jar, and it all goes in all the gaps, and you do the stuff in the gaps when it's not important.
Yep.
The final part is you then get a bottle of beer and you pour the beer into it, and it soaks into the sand, and it shows there's always time in the day for a beer.
Yes.
The health advert, but you know, you've got to have balance in life, and sometimes it's good to have a beer after work as long as you've got the balance.
This is great. No, that's fantastic, Steve. That's so, and a lot of what you said, I know Pete's doing a lot of stuff at the moment on resilience. I see Pete posting a lot about resilience and resilience training stuff, Pete, and the stuff that you said there, Steve, about because you're more healthy, because you're, you know, fitter, because you've got these things in place now, you're not kind of, you know, bubbling along, you know, lukewarm, ready to boil over at any point. You know what I mean? You've got this calmness and this kind of, you've built this, you know, this bedrock of stability, I suppose, and resilience there, so that if something happens, you don't just sort of lose it and throw your toys out the pram or bite someone's head off. You know, you've kind of, you're there, and you're a bit more steady. You're a bit more of a steady ship, which is fantastic. No, that's been really great speaking to you, Stephen, and actually, like you say, talking to you about, I suppose, like you say, this stigma around weight loss surgery, and it's because people just see it as a thing without really knowing a story behind it, or really talking to someone and empathizing and getting to know someone who it has actually helped, which is really interesting. But like you say, that surgery that you had was just a tool to help you kickstart what has now become a totally new way of life, hasn't it?
It has. And you mentioned, I mentioned the lady who had the band at the start, who then put weight on. I won't mention her name, because if she ever hears this, she'll be going, oh, he's talking about me. But she, through Facebook, I started posting things. So you mentioned, so, you know, because of one of the guys at the gym and Bazza, he liked cycling, I ended up doing a charity bike ride. I rode from London to Paris in June. And it was great because people sponsored me, because they thought, Christ, Steve's doing that. That's incredible. And, you know, I did it. And that was despite the fact that when I went home and told Trish, she went, you do know you haven't got a bike. The best thing was she turned around and goes, do you actually know how to ride a bike? To which I responded, don't people say it's like riding a bike? I'm sort of assuming it's dead easy. Apparently, I look like Bambi on a bike when I first set off. Anyway, that's another story. But because I've done the exercise, I was able to do the most amazing thing that is one of the most memorable things of my life: raise money for charity. But because I put that on Facebook, and the lady who had the surgery saw it, she then contacted me and went, "What are you doing? How have you done it?" And I explained, and she went, "But I can't keep it off." And I talked to her about the change, about needing to make, you've done the first part. What you haven't done is you haven't got the alignment in your life and the organisation and also the support around you that needs you to do it. So she started walking, and I said, "Get yourself a Fitbit." Sorry for the advert for Fitbit, but that's what I used to have. I've now got a Garmin. But get yourself something and measure what you're doing. Measure your water, measure your steps, measure your food intake, because you get a shock of your life sometimes when you put in a pint of Heineken and it's 220 calories and you're like, oh God. But you measure everything. And she started doing it. And that was sort of the summer ago. She's lost all her weight.
Wow.
Really healthy. She's doing walking challenges for dementia and all sorts of things, because so it works. You don't need, unfortunately, some of us need to have weight loss surgery to give us a kickstart to get the momentum going. But that's just momentum going. If you're truly going to just lose weight and be healthier, you need to find a way to sustain it. And that, I think that, and I say this to people, and I talk about, you can do this. You don't need, you're lucky you don't need to have that weight loss surgery, but you need to make all the other changes.
No, that's fantastic. So, Steve, if people, because I know you're like, often we speak to people and they're trainers or they're gym owners or they're running programs or whatever, and people maybe, want to get in touch with them. But I suppose for this episode, it's more like, I suppose, is it okay if people are going, if what we've spoke about on this episode kind of resonates with people and they're maybe in a position similar to the position that you were in previously prior to your kind of journey and things, is it okay for people to kind of maybe reach out to you if someone wants to speak to you?
110%. I was lucky. I had the right support, the right people around me, and even now, the guys down at the gym, my friends, my network, my family. But I've met a lot of people through doing this as well, and they've inspired me to keep doing and try different things. So if there's little snippets that I can help, however, either through your, they can find me. I'm on, I don't know, LinkedIn and things like that. Through work, you could easily find me. And you can always find time to half an hour. There's a guy I talk to quite regularly. He's a Liverpool fan, which is a bit of a black mark against him. But he asked me about weight loss surgery before he had his operation. And the guy, he sends me pictures of what he's done, and it's inspiring, and it keeps me straight and narrow on the straight and narrow, and he's now looking to become a policeman because he can now pass the medical, which he could never have done years ago.
Wow, that's fantastic. Pete, do you have anything you'd like to say as we kind of wrap up? I mean, there's loads in there. I know there's loads. I saw you making notes. Yeah.
Well, firstly, I think there's two things I want to say. Firstly, the social media thing. I've been experiencing this recently because I've just been like sending out friends. I realized I've got like 650 friends or something like that, and I was like, well, I'll just, if you're posting on social media and stuff, I'll just like send out loads of friend requests and just randomly, because if you're trying to put a message out for good, social media can be people say it's a toxic place, and it's actually, because you curate your own feed, don't you? And you've just said there, someone you were friends with saw what you were doing, and then they got in touch with you because you were the example. And I think that is brilliant. So if you're on there and, because people might be thinking like, oh, well, I don't know this guy. How am I going to ask him any questions and that? And it's like, you can just ask, and then you can say no or yes or whatever. It doesn't matter. And I've had some people dead suspicious because I'm a coach and everything. They're like, why have you sent me a friend request? And I'm like, well, just because it's social. It's a social place. That's what it's meant to be for, isn't it? You know what I mean? But some people can get very, very kind of wary on it. So I just think that's brilliant, because if you've got a message to put out that is positive or that's helped you, people can listen to it or not on there and then make up their own minds, can't they? So I love that. That is brilliant. And then the other thing he said right at the beginning, And I got pulled up on this the other day for something I said in a group that I'm involved in. And I said something as like a throwaway comment. And the guy who runs the group, the coach in there, he picked me up on it and told the rest of the group. And he was like, Peter's just said this. And you said, so I'm not, this isn't having a go, by the way. It sounds like I'm saying it up to knock you down. But you said at the beginning that even after the surgery, it sounds really corny. And I wrote cliche. You didn't say cliche, but cliche is a thing as well. It sounds really corny, but lifestyle change is the thing that makes the difference, not just the surgery. And to me, what that does is say to people, or it says to me anyway, and this is kind of a similar thing I got picked up on, because you say it without thinking about it, but it doesn't sound corny to me. It sounds like exactly the thing that you need to do. But I think it's because, like, you know, there's a lot of people out there who aren't ready to change their lifestyle right now.
But to be fair, Pete, that's all right. If you don't want to change,
yeah, I know. I'm just saying. In my head, it kind of says it kind of says to someone, like, you know, if this is what you want to do, you do need to make a lifestyle change. Absolutely. And it is okay if you don't. Explicitly, it is okay if you don't, and that's fine. But then it kind of, for the people who might be on the edge of like, do you know what? I think he's right, but it sounds cool. And then it's like, oh, so I don't know. In my head, that was one of the things in the very beginning. So, but like only because I got picked up on it in this group the other day, and it made me really think about how I say things. It was.
Otherwise, it's just a diet, or it's just a thing. It's just a temporary thing. It's a bit like, you know, in business, you get consultants who come in and they go, we can change this. And you're like, yeah, but how are you going to sustain it?
Yeah.
Because if you can't sustain it, what's the point of having a quick fix? Because it won't, and then you'll be back to where you started again. And you've just done a load of time and effort to then back to where you started. So, yeah, but if you've got a good reason to change, and you've got the skills and capability, and then you get that, change your lifestyle, alignment, plan, do things differently, and have the support, you'd be stunned what's possible. Absolutely. And you know what? The vast majority of people go back to social media thing. There's some right idiots out there, but there's more good people. Unfortunately, we mention the idiots, don't we? But there are people. So yeah, if someone wants to reach out and help, I'll find half hour and I'll help them. And you know what? If that does help them, that doesn't have to make you feel better. So I'm being a bit selfish, to be honest, but
I know exactly what you mean. It's brilliant. I love it.
And Mr. Paul Bassett snuck in and joined us. He is, I presume he's in his new facility. He's not got his camera on at the moment, but he is there, and he has been listening, I think, for most of today. Are you okay, Paul?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm just, we had a delivery of equipment just before the podcast, so you know what these things are like.
Yes.
I have a theory. I have a theory that has just popped into my head. I reckon Paul's been put in prison, and he gets an hour. He gets an hour a week because he never puts his camera on. You know what I mean? He turns up and he doesn't say anything, and his camera's off and all of that sort of stuff. I reckon he's been banged up for a couple of weeks.
Well, you know, I've dealt with criminals a few times, so
he's using his phone call to do
Yeah, you guys, do we have bail in this country? I don't know. You guys can help, can't you? Yeah, no, it's really fascinating because I mean, obviously, I deal with a lot of people who come in who've had similar surgeries, and you know, hearing the way you kind of really focus, I think is so important.
What a disaster.
That prison Wi-Fi.
You actually decided you're going to do it. You're just going to follow the experts, and you're just going to do what they say and see where that took you. But I think at every point, it sounds like you've always really focused on the numbers, you know, and actually having. It was very interesting what I was saying, but
the bit I did here is I do focus on the numbers, and you know something. One of the things that I've learned is that having a goal and making little steps towards it. There's a famous film in American football where they talk about winning possession. It's inch by inch. And you know, whether it's work or personal, just having something, and you're never going to get there straight away, a bit like the ice baths we mentioned earlier on, but having that goal, but monitoring it, because sometimes, I got married at 18 months ago and I went on a stag do and I was drinking this espresso martinis. That's a bit weird, but they're small and they feel good. There's a lot of sugar in espresso martinis when I was putting in my fitness pay, I'll tell you. But,
they are nice though.
Stop it.
I'm with you on that. I like
brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Steve. It's been a pleasure, actually talking to you in depth about this, and hopefully, I mean, even certainly if people are listening and they are in a similar kind of boat to where you were, this is going to be really helpful and invaluable. But I think a lot of the stuff that you talked about as well is going to be valuable for everyone, for whatever their goals are and wherever they are on their own fitness journey or whatever. There's stuff in there that we can all take away. And I think certainly the stuff around having a plan and having support and making sure that you've got alignment and you've got balance and all this stuff, they're kind of universal themes that will help everyone. So thanks so much, Steve, for joining us today.
Thank you, gentlemen. Cheers.
Cool. So, guys, thank you very much for listening again. And please do like, share, subscribe, leave a review if you're listening on a platform that allows you to do so. Next week, I'm not sure what we're doing next week. We're doing something. We will be doing one next week. I was getting confused with my timelines, but we have not recorded next week's yet. We will be doing one next week, and we will be seeing you there. Like I said, this has been 127 with Steve. We will join you next week for episode 128. See you later. Goodbye.
You've been listening to Health Odyssey with Peter Lant, Paul Bassett, and James St. Pierre. To get your regular fix of hype-free health, you can subscribe and leave a review wherever you get your favorite podcasts. You can find out more on today's and other topics at healthodyssey.com or find us on Facebook or Instagram by searching for Health Odyssey.